Now let me discuss about a question asked in Civil Services Mains Examination 2022 Sociology Paper 1. The question is, what aspects of enlightenment do you think paved the way for the emergence of sociology? Elaborate. So, here we need to discuss what are the important aspects of enlightenment which resulted into the emergence of sociology as a scientific discipline. So the focus is on enlightenment. So how to start answer for this question? While presenting the answer, first of all, you need to write a brief introduction. And this particular question is asked for 20 marks. That means it is you are supposed to write an elaborate answer for this question. Social forces and intellectual forces have played an important role or vital role in the rise of sociological theory. Before we discuss about enlightenment, because enlightenment comes under the intellectual forces and the rise of sociological theory. But before that, briefly we need to write how social forces have also contributed for the development of sociological theory or development of sociology as a scientific discipline. As far as social forces are concerned, political revolutions, industrial revolution and the rise of capitalism, the rise of socialism, feminism, urbanization, religious change, and the growth of science. All these factors or all these social forces have contributed for the development of sociology as a scientific discipline. Then you need to discuss very briefly about these social forces in the development of sociological theory. All intellectual fields are profoundly shaped by their social settings. This is particularly true of sociology, which is not only derived from that settings, but takes the social setting as its basic subject matter. The most important social conditions of the 19th and early 20th century, conditions that were of the utmost significance in the development of sociology. Specifically, industrial revolution, which took place during 18th century, and French Revolution in 1789. These two revolutions have brought about sweeping changes throughout Europe. First, let me briefly present about the political revolutions. The long series of political revolutions ushered in by the French Revolution in 1789 and carrying over through the 19th century was the most immediate factor in the rise of sociological theorizing. The impact of these revolutions on many societies was enormous, and many positive changes resulted. However, what attracted the attention of many early theorists was not the positive consequences, but the negative effects of such changes. That means, French Revolution has given birth to the new ideas and ideologies like positivism, liberalism, humanitarianism, democracy, socialism. So that means a new kind of ideas and ideologies have emerged which have transformed social and political life in entire Europe. Then Industrial Revolution and the rise of capitalism. Industrial Revolution, which swept through many Western societies, mainly in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The Industrial Revolution was not a single event, but many interrelated developments that culminated in the transformation of the Western world from largely agricultural to an overwhelmingly industrial system. And Industrial Revolution has brought about many economic changes in the society. Industrialization led to urbanization, and large number of people left rural areas and migrated to urban areas. So, industrialization and urbanization have resulted into various types of social problems which became rampant in the fast developing societies, in the fast developing cities. So there was so much of disorganization, uncertainty in the society. The direction of social change was unclear, and the stability of the social order seemed threatened. An understanding of what was happening was urgently needed. In fact, by that time, there was no science to study the society, to study the social consequences, to study the social issues. Then, this Industrial Revolution has also resulted into large economic bureaucracies arose to provide the many services needed by industry and the emerging capitalist economic system. A reaction against the industrial system and against capitalism in general followed and led to the labor movement, as well as to various radical movements aimed at overthrowing the capitalist system. The Industrial Revolution, capitalism, and the reaction against them all involved an enormous upheaval in Western society. An upheaval that affected sociologists greatly. So therefore, there was a necessity of a separate science of society to understand all these changes. Then third one, the rise of socialism. As I said earlier, French Revolution, apart from Industrial Revolution, have given birth to new ideologies. Prior to Industrial Revolution and French Revolution, there was a feudalism. Society was autocratic in nature, but various social movements that emerged due to the influence of Industrial Revolution and French Revolution have given birth to new ideologies like socialism. So there was a transformation from feudalism to capitalism. Then there was so much of reaction against capitalism and people started demanding for socialism. Then feminism, especially during 1780s and 1790s, with the debates surrounding the American and French revolutions, a far more organized, focused effort in the 1850s as part of the mobilization against slavery and for political rights for the middle class, and the massive mobilization for women's suffrage and for industrial and civic reform legislation in the early 20th century, especially the progressive era in the United States. So, during this time, a feminist ideology has developed in many European societies, which raised several issues related to women. Then another one is urbanization. Due to the impact of Industrial Revolution, large numbers of people in the 19th and 20th centuries were uprooted from their rural homes and moved to urban settings. This massive migration was caused in large part by the jobs created by the industrial system in the urban areas. But apart from that, several problems have emerged in urban areas, especially in cities, like overcrowding, pollution, traffic, environmental degradation. Various issues have been cropped up in urban areas. Then another one, religious change. Industrial revolution and urbanization had a profound effect on religiosity. So, many early sociologists have developed interest in the study of religion, especially the sociologists like Emil Durkheim, Max Weber, and Karl Marx. They have studied about the religion from different perspectives. So, Industrial Revolution and French Revolution has not only impacted the social and economic life of the people, but also the religious life of the people. Then another important aspect is the growth of science. 19th century was a period in which natural sciences had made much progress. The success attained by the natural scientists inspired and even tempted good number of social thinkers to emulate their example. If their methods could be successful in the physical world to understand physical or natural phenomena, could they not be applied successfully to the social world to understand social phenomena? So, the argument built by the sociologists like Auguste Comte and Emil Durkheim, that can we really apply the natural science methodology which is used for the study of physical phenomena, can be applied to the study of social phenomena or not? And their argument was yes. And Auguste Comte and Emil Durkheim have developed positivist methodology for the study of social phenomena, which helped to establish the laws of human behavior. On the basis, by using this positivist methodology, Auguste Comte and Emil Durkheim have established sociological theories which are applicable to the entire social universe, like theory of law of three stages. Auguste Comte has talked about this theory of social evolution. Emil Durkheim has introduced the theory of suicide. He also talked about division of labor and social solidarity. So, several questions were raised whether the natural science methodology could be applied to the study of social phenomena or not. As an answer to this question, Comte, Spencer, Durkheim, Weber, and others successfully demonstrated that these methods could be used to the study of social world. And another aspect we need to mention here is those associated with the most successful sciences like physics, biology, and chemistry were accorded honored places in society. Sociologists, especially Auguste Comte and Emil Durkheim, from the beginning were preoccupied with science, and many wanted to model sociology after the successful physical and biological sciences. So, all these points are related to the social forces in the development of sociological theory. So, this briefly you need to discuss in the beginning. Then now let us shift to the discussion on enlightenment. Enlightenment, that means how the intellectual forces, more specifically various aspects of enlightenment, have contributed for the rise of sociological theory or sociology as a scientific discipline. In the real world, intellectual factors cannot be separated from social forces. Though many social forces have contributed and forced the social thinkers to introduce a new science of society, that is sociology. But apart from that, many intellectual forces have also contributed for the rise of sociology as a scientific discipline. It is the view of many observers that the Enlightenment constitutes a critical development in terms of the later evolution of sociology. Please listen to these points carefully. Every point is very, very important and they are very much related to the question. The Enlightenment was a period of remarkable intellectual development and change in philosophical thought. A number of long-standing ideas and beliefs, many of which related to social life, were overthrown and replaced during the Enlightenment. So that means one of the most important aspects of the Enlightenment is overthrowing of the long-standing traditions, ideas and beliefs. The most prominent thinkers associated with the Enlightenment were the French philosophers Charles Montesquieu, I am repeating, Charles Montesquieu and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, J.J. Rousseau. The influence of the Enlightenment on sociological theory, however, was more indirect and negative than it was direct and positive. Irving Jaitlin has studied about the influence of Enlightenment on the early sociology. Irving Jaitlin is like this. Irving Jaitlin puts it, early sociology developed as a reaction to the Enlightenment. The thinkers associated with Enlightenment were influenced above all by two intellectual currents: 17th century philosophy and science. This particular point is very, very important. The thinkers associated with the Enlightenment were influenced by two intellectual currents: 17th century philosophy and science. 17th century philosophy was associated with the work of thinkers such as René Descartes, Thomas Hobbes, then John Locke. This particular point again very important. 17th century philosophy was associated with the work of thinkers such as René Descartes, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. The emphasis was on producing grand, general and very abstract systems of ideas that made rational sense. The later thinkers associated with the Enlightenment did not reject the idea that systems of ideas should be general and should make rational sense, but they did make greater efforts to derive their ideas from the real world and to test them there. In other words, they wanted to combine empirical research with reason. So that means Descartes, Thomas Hobbes and Locke and the later thinkers wanted to establish a science of society mainly based on empiricism and reason. That is why sociology is considered as an empirical science. Sociology is not based on common sense knowledge. Sociological knowledge is always based on empirical evidence. Why? Because sociological knowledge is generated on the basis of empiricism and reason. Reason, what is reason? Reason is a logical thinking, a rational thinking. So that is why sociology has been developed as a rational and empirical science. Then here another point mentioned by the sociologists, that the model for this was science, especially Newtonian physics. Now, while Auguste Comte, who is traditionally considered as the founder of sociology or founding father of sociology, Initially, he has used the term called social physics. That means he wanted to introduce the science of society, which he called it as the social physics, because he wanted to model this particular science like the physical sciences and natural sciences, like any other physics, chemistry and biology. But of course, later on in 1839, he renamed it as sociology. At this point, we see the emergence of the application of the scientific method to social issues. This is very important. So, as part of enlightenment, the social scientists tried to apply the scientific method to the study of social issues. Not only did enlightenment thinkers want their ideas to be, at least in part, derived from the real world, but they also wanted them to be useful to the social world, especially in the critical analysis of that world. This particular point is again very important. Overall, the enlightenment was characterized by the belief that people could comprehend and control the universe by means of reason and empirical research. Again, I want to repeat this point. Overall, the enlightenment was characterized by the belief that people could comprehend and control the universe by means of reason and empirical research. The view was that because the physical world was dominated by the natural laws, it was likely that the social world was too. That means, as there are certain natural laws which govern the physical world, in the same fashion, we can also have certain social laws which govern the social, economic and cultural life of the people. So that is why sociologists have developed several theories and laws which govern the social life. With an emphasis on reason, the Enlightenment philosophers were inclined to reject beliefs in traditional authority. Then, how this enlightenment has contributed for the rise of the social theory? So now we have discussed what is enlightenment, but how this, here the question is, what aspects of enlightenment do you think paved the way for the emergence of sociology? So here two important aspects I told you. One, that 17th century philosophy, which was based on reason and empiricism. Then the science. That means the social scientists have argued that one can understand the social phenomena by applying the natural science methodology or scientific methodology, like in natural sciences or physical sciences. Then we need to discuss what is the conservative reaction to the Enlightenment. On the surface, we might think that French classical sociological theory, like Marx, theory was directly and positively influenced the Enlightenment. French sociology became rational, empirical, scientific, and change-oriented. But not before it was also shaped by a set of ideas developed in reaction to the Enlightenment. I would like to state here that sociology as a scientific discipline has developed initially in France. It was the French social scientists who contributed for the development of sociology as a science, and later on the German sociologists or German social scientists, then British social scientists, then Italian social scientists. Like that, sociology has developed as a scientific discipline in Europe. Later on, it has spread to other parts of the world. Sociology in general and French sociology in particular has from the beginning been an uncomfortable mix of Enlightenment and counter-Enlightenment ideas. Earlier I said French sociology became rational, empirical, scientific, and change-oriented. That means from the beginning, sociology has emphasized on the scientific thinking, positive thinking, rational thinking, and the human thinking must be ultimately result into the change in the society, and the change must be in a positive oriented, not negative oriented. Then another point is, as I said, the sociology in general, especially French sociology, was an uncomfortable mix of Enlightenment and counter-Enlightenment ideas. The most extreme form of opposition to Enlightenment ideas was French Catholic counter-revolutionary philosophy, as represented by the ideas of Louis de Bonald and Joseph de Maistre. Then now you need to present some points related to the development of French sociology. The actual founding of sociology as a distinctive discipline, specifically to the work of three French thinkers, Claude Saint-Simon, Auguste Comte, and Émile Durkheim. So this is very important. Here, the ideas of Saint-Simon Auguste Comte and Émile Durkheim. So, the ideas of these three French thinkers have contributed for the rise of French sociology. The most interesting aspect of Saint-Simon was his significance to the development of both conservative and radical Marxian theory. On the conservative side, Saint-Simon wanted to preserve society as it was, but he did not seek a return to life as it had been in the Middle Ages. In addition, he was a positivist, which meant that he believed that the study of social phenomena should employ same scientific techniques as were used in the natural sciences. So this particular point is very important. I would like to repeat this point. In addition, he was a positivist. Saint-Simon was a positivist, which meant that he believed that the study of social phenomena should employ the same scientific techniques as were used in the natural sciences. On the radical side, Saint-Simon saw the need for socialist reforms, especially the centralized planning of the economic system. Actually, the sociologists like Auguste Comte, then Émile Durkheim, they were very much influenced by the Saint-Simon. Then Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte was the first to use the term sociology. And he believed that the study of sociology should be scientific just as many classical theories did and most contemporary sociologists do. He developed his scientific view called positivism or positive philosophy to combat what he considered to be the negative and destructive philosophy of the Enlightenment. Comte developed social physics, or what in 1839 he called sociology. As I said, initially he has introduced the term called social physics, which is the science of society. But in 1839, he has replaced the term social physics with sociology. The use of the term social physics made it clear that Comte sought to model sociology after the hard sciences. This new science, which in his view would ultimately become the dominant science, was to be concerned with both social statics and social dynamics. Social static, it is related to the existing social structure, the study of the existing social structure, and social dynamics, that is social change. Although both involve the search for laws of social life, he felt that social dynamics were more important than social statics. That means Auguste Comte has argued that sociology has to focus more on the social dynamics rather than the study of social structures. That's why he said sociology constitutes of two important parts, social statics and social dynamics. And Comte was in forefront of the development of positivist sociology. I think, positivist sociology is a scientific sociology where understanding the society in a scientific way and coming out with scientific solutions to the various issues that are persisting in the society. Then Enlightenment had a number of positive effects on Durkheim's work. For example, the emphasis on science and social reformism. And Emile Durkheim has presented his views in his classic works like The Rules of Sociological Method, Suicide, then Division of Labor in Society. Durkheim made it very clear that sociology is the science of social facts. Durkheim developed a distinctive conception of the subject matter of sociology and then tested it in an empirical study. Durkheim argued that it is the special task of sociology to study what he called social facts. He conceived of social facts as forces and structures that are external to and conceive of the individual. And Durkheim has introduced the positivist methodology, which will be helpful to study the social phenomena, and through that a social scientist can establish the social laws or the laws of human behavior which are applicable to the entire social universe. And he has discussed about the division of labor in society and how this division of labor would result into the social solidarity. And he talked about the mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. And he also studied about the suicide, and he has classified the suicide into 4 types. And he has demonstrated that how statistics can be applied in sociological analysis. Then after the French social scientists, it is the German social scientists who have contributed for the development of sociological ideas and sociological thought. While discussing about the German development of German sociology, we need to present about the views of Hegel and Karl Marx and Max Weber. The concepts represent the essence of Hegel's philosophy, the dialectic and idealism. The dialectic is both a way of thinking and an image of the world. On the one hand, it is a way of thinking that stresses the importance of processes, relations, dynamics, conflicts, and contradictions. A dynamic rather than a static way of thinking about the world. On the other hand, it is a view that the world is made up not of static structures, but of processes, relationships, dynamics, conflicts, and contradictions. So the concept of dialectic or the theory of dialectic was introduced by Hegel. So according to Hegel, dialectic is a discussion between two mutually opposite forces, where he talked about thesis, which is countered by antithesis, which ultimately results into the emergence of synthesis. And this synthesis is not static. And out of synthesis again, thesis will emerge. And thesis will soon confronted by antithesis, which will again result into synthesis. Like that, this is a continuous process through which the knowledge advances and society advances. Hegel tended to apply the dialectic only to ideas, whereas, actually here, Hegel is concerned with the concept of dialectic and concept of idealism. According to Hegel, this dialectic process is based on the ideas. Since Hegel was an idealist, in fact, Hegel offered a kind of evolutionary theory of the world in idealistic terms. Hegel paid a great deal of attention to the development of such ideas, especially to what he referred to as the spirit of society. The spirit of society. That means the ideas are the spirit of society through which the society undergoes change. So, Marx has borrowed the concept of dialectic from Hegel, but he has differed with Hegel on an aspect that this dialectical process is not based on ideas, or it is not based on mind, but it is based on the material aspects of life. Material aspects of life. For example, economy. So that means Hegel is associated with the philosophy of idealism, which emphasizes the importance of mind and mental products rather than the material world. But whereas Marx has emphasized on the material world rather than idealism. In Marxian view, materialistic forces are superior to the idealistic forces. Marx took a very different position, arguing that the problems of modern life can be traced to real material sources. For example, the structures of capitalism, and that the solutions, therefore, can be found only in the overturning of those structures by the collective action of large numbers of people. So Marx firmly embedded his dialectic in a material base. So therefore, based on this kind of argument, Marx has introduced the theory of dialectical materialism, which focuses on dialectical relationship within the material world. So the material world is more important. And Marx has also talked about the political economy. Then, apart from Marx, another German social thinker like Weber also contributed for the development of sociology as a scientific discipline. Weber did tend to view Marx and the Marxists of his day as economic determinists who offered single cause theories of social life. That is, Marxian theory was seen as tracing all historical developments to economic basis and viewing all contemporaneous structures as erected on an economic base. Although this is not true of Marx's own theory, it was the position of many later Marxists. Then Weber has differed with Marx. Instead of focusing on economic factors and their effect on ideas, Weber devoted much of his attention to ideas and their effect on the economy. It is reversing the Marxian ideas. Marx says that it is the material forces which influence the ideas of the human beings. But whereas Weber argued that ideas affect on the economy. Rather than seeing ideas as simple reflections of economic factors, Weber saw them as fairly autonomous forces capable of profoundly affecting the economic world. So, keeping these ideas in view, he has conducted a study namely the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism. In the Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism, he was concerned with Protestantism mainly as a system of ideas and its impact on the rise of another system of ideas, the spirit of capitalism, and ultimately on a capitalist economic system. So that means how the ideas of Protestantism resulted into the rise of the spirit of capitalism and how it has influenced the capitalist economic system. That has been analyzed by Max Weber. So like that, Max Weber has also talked about rationality, he talked about types of authority, he talked about bureaucracy, and like that, even British sociologists like Herbert Spencer, then and later on many Italian social thinkers like Vilfredo Pareto, all of them, they have contributed for the rise of sociology as a scientific discipline. So all these aspects are related to the Enlightenment. So this Enlightenment is nothing but the thought process among the social thinkers. So this kind of thought process has resulted into or paved the way for the emergence of sociology. So my suggestion to the students is that first you briefly discuss about how social forces have contributed for the development of sociological theory. Then later on you discuss about the intellectual forces and the rise of sociological theory. And as part of that, you need to discuss about Enlightenment. And what was the reaction of the social scientists to the Enlightenment? And how their thinking has contributed for the rise of sociology as a discipline. So all these points are very important. You try to arrange all these points in a logical order and ultimately draw a conclusion. And ultimately we can draw a conclusion that the social forces like political revolutions, like French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, the rise of capitalism and socialism, feminism, urbanization, religious change, the growth of natural sciences, and the Enlightenment together contributed for the development of sociology as a scientific discipline. So these are certain important points related to this particular question. And this is a 20 marks question. So therefore, you need to present your answer elaborately.